I am in God's country. I can tell you, you may know, I grew up in Edmonton, and my grandparents lived in Vancouver. And the highlight, my parents used to pack us into the Rito 500, 6 of us, no seatbelts. My dad chain smoking all the way. And the Oasis was Kelowna. We had, but it doesn't matter, we had some travel trouble last night, so it literally just came in. But God damn, I was going to make sure. Listen, it's fantastic to see everyone. Now, I got a couple of quick questions. Who's ready? I'm not even there yet. Okay, I got 3 questions now. First one, who's ready? Are you guys ready for anything? Who's ready to stand up for Canada?
Yes.
Who is ready to help make sure the Liberal Party wins this crucial general election? Only a month ago tomorrow, I put my hand up to run for the leadership, launched a campaign back in Edmonton, and I did so because at the time, in the run-up to it, the weeks in the run-up, I felt that our country needed some big changes in order to get back on track and to make Canada work for all Canadians. Thank you. And since then, I've had the privilege, and it really is a privilege, to crisscross this country, meet with Canadians. It's been validated, those concerns. I've seen, how anxious people are, how tough things have been. I knew it, I knew the numbers, but you got to talk to people to really feel it. And people have been hit by the cost of living crisis, concerns about housing running away from younger Canadians, you know it here in Kelowna, worried about their future of our children, future in a world that, before all this nonsense from south of the border, before all of this, a world that's more divided and dangerous, in a world in which we've got huge technological changes that are going to change all our lives, and we need to make sure they change for the better that are coming on us. So I put my hand up, somewhat nervously.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I think I'm going to still say this for the first time. I am not a politician. I am not a politician. I've never been a politician. But I've always been a pragmatist. And so when I see something that's not working, I try to change it. And I'm going to start with an example of that, which is the consumer carbon tax. Good idea on paper, put into action with the best intentions, but something that's become very divisive in our country. Very divisive. And if people don't buy into a policy or change, doesn't matter how good it is, it's not right. So the issue wasn't, to coin a phrase, whether to axe the tax. The issue was how to change it. How to change it, in all its respects. Because the easiest thing is just to literally axe the tax. But if you axe the tax, well, first, our emissions aren't going to go down, and maybe you don't care, maybe you don't believe in climate change. Oh yeah. Maybe you think for the first time in Canada's history, we're not going to pull our weight in a big global problem. It's not the Canada I know, but maybe that's the Canada somebody's trying to create. It's not right, but people try. Maybe you don't recognize that the average family, not here in BC where but the average family across Canada gets $700 more back in the rebate than they pay in the tax. Okay? Yeah, I know, but across the country, elsewhere in the country. And particularly in places, rural communities, where it really matters. So you don't care about that, and you don't think our businesses need to get their emissions down. So in changing the carbon tax, what we put out 10 days or so ago, 2 weeks ago, we addressed all those things. We're getting rid of the consumer carbon tax. We're getting rid of the carbon tax on small businesses. We're getting rid of the carbon tax on farms. We're making the large companies pay for everybody, including here in Kelowna, across BC. If you want to, and it's your choice, but if you want to insulate your home, if you want a lower emission vehicle, if you want to do something that helps reduce emissions, you're going to get a big rebate from the federal government, but the taxpayer is not going to pay. The taxpayer is not going to pay. Our companies, our largest companies, are going to pay. And it's better for them, because in some cases it's better for them to pay you to do that than for them to try to retool a big factory or something like that. So it's all of Canada working in the right direction. That's an example of the kind of change we want. We want the right kind of change that puts more money in people's pockets, change that make our companies more competitive, and change that builds the strongest economy in the G7, the big economies. Okay. Now, I am here, and when I think about it, I'm here in part because, whether by accident or design, virtually everything in my life has prepared me for this moment. There's a lot of accident in that. A lot of wisdom, as you know, a lot of wisdom comes from making mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes, so I got a lot of wisdom. But I grew up, as I said, I grew up on the prairies, same values as yours, values of hard work, community. Came from Saskatoon. This morning's minus 32. If you don't believe in community, you're in big trouble. Tolerance and ambition. Ambition for a better future for our community, for our children, and going forward. I was sent away by my province to university, our country, for more university. I worked in and around the world. I worked both in the public sector, because I feel a great responsibility to give back for all I received, but also in the private sector. Spent a lot of time in the private sector. And this is where the accidents come in. It's not my fault, but I worked on managing a number of crises around the world, and also to building strong economies. And in all those experiences, I've taken really 3 lessons. The first is never forget where you're from, and never forget the values that you were given by your parents and your community. The second is that in a crisis, plan beats no plan. You have to have a plan. It gives everybody a focus. It gives discipline. It gives energy. We have a plan for Canada which is going to deliver the strongest economy and is going to ride out the Americans until they come back. The other thing I learned over the years, it took me a while to really grasp this, but I am a huge fan of markets in the private sector and delivery. But in the end, markets don't have values. People do. Yeah. And it's our job, often in government, is to make sure that those markets are directed to deliver for people. Now, not everyone gets that. And my opponent, I've seen this type of politician before around the world. Lifelong politicians. There's no bigger believer in the market than a lifelong politician who's never worked in the market, never made a patient, never earned it. So the answer to every problem is to cut, destroy, reduce. The Americans, I'm trying to rationalize for a moment what's happening with them. It's not easy. I understand your point. But part of the reaction there is because they lost their way. They forgot about the middle class. They forgot about the big hits to the middle class and the squeezes on the middle class in America. They have also let the tech giants and others run people's lives. Now they're letting them run the government. Now they're letting them run the government. Okay. Look, there's a lot at stake right now. And a lot of it is economic, and I'm going to come to an economic response in a second. But part of it is about what they want. They want our resources. They want our water. They want our land. They would destroy our way of life. Let's just think about this for a moment. I'll look around this room. Canada is a mosaic, right? We're all Canadians here, but we all have different identities that we share and we celebrate. America is a melting pot. You go there, become American, move into becoming American. It's a different way of doing things, it's not our way of doing things. You know, in America, there are no First Nations. In America, there would never be French language right. Jamais les droits de langue en français. Personne ne parle. Be New Orleans. Be Louisiana, pas Quebec. In America, healthcare is a big business, it's not a right. In America, the social safety net has gaping holes in it through which tens of millions of people fall every year. America is not Canada. And Canada will never, ever be part of America in any way, shape, or form. What do we do in the situation we are now? If plan beats no plan, what should we do? And so I'm going to talk about some of the economic things and then I'll finish. And the first thing in my experience in a crisis is you've got to recognize what you can change, what you can influence, what you can't change. And what we can't change, and this is the same thing as the 2008 financial crisis, it came from abroad, we can't change the forces outside this country. Okay? Can we influence Trump? A bit. A bit. And then we've got to pretend we didn't. But we've got to respect, you know, part of it, we've got to respect, look, fentanyl is an absolute crisis in the United States. It's a challenge here, but it's a crisis there. And us doing what we can to help them with that is absolutely appropriate. And of course, having securing our borders is in our interest as much as it is in their interest. What we can change, what we must change, is to be masters in our own house, in absolute control of our economic destiny. Il faut être maître chez nous. Il faut contrôler notre destin économique. So how do we do that? And I'm going to raise 5 things that we're proposing. And the first is to make sure that the government works for you. The government's focused on outcomes, not money going in. We need a government that spends less, but gets the country to invest more. So my government will balance the spending budget within the first 3 years. Absolutely. The second thing we need to do is make sure that you can keep more of your hard-earned money. Yeah, you're welcome. You don't have to thank us. It's the other way around. And that attitude that it's your money, not the government's money, is essential when people are sitting around those tables in Ottawa. So my government will deliver a middle-class tax cut as well. Lots of young Canadians here, we recognize just how hard the last 5 years have been. Knocked sideways by the pandemic. A housing market running away. Lost education, lost job opportunities. It doesn't do any good. Look, it's better than the alternative to say inflation is now back at target. But the level of prices aren't. We've got to get the incomes of young people up. We've got to give them a boost, and we will deliver a direct boost to the incomes of young Canadians so that they can catch up. And we will do major changes in the housing market so they can also catch up there. The third thing we have to do, and this goes directly against the pressure we will get from the United States, whatever they do, is build. Build, baby, build. They're going to drill, we're going to build. Some of what we build is going to help with our drilling, to be clear. Some of it's going to be energy infrastructure. Some of it's going to be clean energy. Some of it's going to be trade corridor. A lot of it is going to be housing, the 3 or 4 million new homes that we need across this country. And something that my government is going to do is to use all of the powers of the federal government, including the emergency powers of the federal government, to accelerate the major projects that we need. in order to build this economy and take on the Americans. I'm going to say one other thing. I'll say one other thing about the Americans here. There's a fever raging south of the border. It's true. It's going to pass in time, but we should take advantage of it. We have an opportunity to leapfrog the Americans, and we're going to take it. Take it as all will be forgiven. We'll come back. Okay. Two other big things we're going to do. We're going to have one economy in this country, not 13. Within the first few weeks of my government, I form a government, we'll convene federal, provincial first ministers, the premiers, and the prime minister in order to identify those big projects that are national priorities in order to sweep away the barriers that are preventing the good products of Kelowna and the surrounding regions. I mean, in theory, I'm not even allowed to take it back on the plane. It's absolutely there's no way. I gotta drink it all here. It's gonna be a hell of a speech tonight. And then the last thing we're gonna do, by no means the smallest, is we're gonna stop having all our eggs in one basket internationally. Around the world, a lot of like-minded countries around the world who want to trade with us. We have what they want, and we're going to use it to our maximum benefit. Okay. Let me finish up, and I just want to underscore. So a lot of what I've talked about has to do with the economy, rightly so. It's part of why I put my hand up initially. It's the challenges we have from the Americans that have made it more acute. But I just want to reflect for a minute why we care about the economy and why so many of you donate your time, some money, to the political process, to your communities. Why do we care about the economy? Of course we care about good jobs for people in this room, your children, grandchildren. We care about that. But we recognize that, look, we care about the vulnerable in society. And we know that we can't redistribute what we don't have. We know we can't be strong abroad if we're weak at home. We know we can't build the future if we can't manage the present. So we care about a strong economy, and we're going to build a strong economy so we can have a great healthcare system. We can have the resources for our healthcare system. We don't have a good enough healthcare system right now. I know it's a provincial responsibility, but part of our responsibility, the federal government, is to make sure that this economy is stronger than ever so the province can do what it needs to do. We care about a strong economy because we care about our social programs, including pensions through Canada Pension Plan, the supplements. We care about this new programs that have been put in place, child care for young families starting out, dental care, 1.5 million Canadians have access to that. These are people who can't afford proper dental care. Free school meals for children who don't get it. We care about that. We care about building the future, building a sustainable future. We need a strong economy in order to do that. If I go back to when I used to come through Kelowna as a kid, I benefited from what my parents and grandparents built. Nelson, BC, my father was born. It's not bad, Nelson. Right? There's no rivalry here. You've won the rivalry. But what they built over the years, my grandfather came from Ireland, lived in BC his whole life, helped build that. We built it through our communities. We have a responsibility. I feel that responsibility personally. I know you're all here because you feel it as well. To make the greatest country in the world even better. This is our time. This is our moment. Thank you for your support. Let's build together. Thank you.